If you go onto the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, don't be surprised if you encounter the ghost of a man once named George. If you somehow manage to get onto the ride as soon as the park opens, you'll be able to hear over the intercom a cast member saying, "Good morning, George." Not only that, but after the park closes, you'll once again hear, "Good night, George." The cast members supposedly do this to calm or please George. The story goes that sometime in the 1970s, a man named George worked for the park. One day, George was performing some kind of construction on the famous Pirates of the Caribbean ride when things took an inexplicably tragic turn. This is where the story splits off into different variations that ultimately have the same end. Some say George fell off to his death while working on the ride. Others say he was crushed to death by a beam. Either way, the man died in a very gruesome way. Guests who have openly mocked George or say they don't believe in him are supposedly sick sometime after the ride, leading some to believe George is causing it. Some have said they have even heard the man behind them, but when they turned around, he was nowhere in sight. Though that's one of the most popular real Disney ghost stories, it's not the only one. In fact, there are many alleged Disney ghost sightings. One ride called the Tower of Terror had another famous ghost. The story goes that during the cast members' last shift, they inexplicably died. Ever since then, when the ride is on its last one or two trips before the park shuts, guests have claimed to see a man dressed as a bellhop in a similar outfit that the late cast member wore. When the apparition appears, the ride will start to flicker, and in some cases even shut down. The haunted mansion might actually be haunted, at least according to some workers and guests. Some employees say that late at night, before the ride closes down, they sometimes see an old man with a cane riding on the haunted mansion. The entity has been seen on many occasions over the years. Some workers have even tried talking to the man, but when questioned, he just looks in another direction and walks away. Some have tried following him, but it seems as though he just disappears, as though he was never there in the first place. Not much is known about who or what the man might have been, but there doesn't seem to be any violent or dangerous interaction with the apparition. Another legendary ghost from the ride is that of a little boy. People say they can see and hear the boy late at night crying on the ride, screaming for his mother. Over the years, there have been many sightings of the child, but one person was lucky enough to get a photo. What you'll see next is a photo of the little boy, and it's truly chilling. Disney's It's a Small Ride is one of the most classic, iconic rides at Disneyland. It is a theme song all of us know very well. Some of you may even remember a popular rendition of it by the artist Muji that has been featured in countless creepypasta videos online. What may seem like a simple, peaceful child's ride could very well have a more sinister past to it. One popular legend that some claim to be true is the story of a boy who hung himself on the ride. Supposedly, sometime in 1999, as guests were enjoying their time on a peaceful little water ride, things took an unpredictable turn. What happened next was a series of bizarre occurrences, and it's best if you hear it from a supposed person who was there on that interesting day. In 1999, my family visited Disneyland. We happily rode the Small World ride. I was 12 at the time and my sister was 6. We loved every moment and our parents smiled with nostalgia. At some time near the end, some lights suddenly shut off and rear lights illuminated the ceiling. The moving display parts shut off, and crew members wearing red overalls walked along them to help passengers in the boat onto the stages to direct them out of the building via emergency exits. A voice came over the loudspeaker. "Disneyland thanks you for your visit. Please evacuate the attraction in an orderly fashion. Keep looking forward and follow the direction of the staff. Thank you." The staff wouldn't tell us much as they quickly ushered us out of the building. Ambulances were outside, and a police car was parked in the main walkway. At the time, my mother still had her camera and snapped a few photos of the crewmen and close-ups of the mechanical children. She snapped a few last-minute photos of whatever to use at the last of the roll of film on the camera, since we were going to develop them later that afternoon anyway. This is the last photo of the reel, aimed at the ceiling of the attraction. What appears next is a photo supposedly from that day. What you can see is what seems to be a small child hanging from the ceiling with what appears to be some sort of rope or cable wrapped around their neck. Though that is terrifying, it's not the only blood-curdling incident to happen on the ride. In what sounds like something straight out of a Five Nights at Freddy's game, employees at the park have claimed that at night, when the It's a Small World ride characters are unplugged, they come to life. The workers claim to see the dolls blink, move around sporadically, and even some reports of spine-tingling giggles. One worker claimed to see the dolls dancing and singing. Though this ride is one of the last signs of classic Disney, it could still have something very sinister hiding beneath its surface. One of a parent's worst nightmares is the thought of their child being abducted by a stranger, and unfortunately, it's a sad part of our reality. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, nearly 800,000 children are reported missing each year. That's more than 2,000 a day. After hearing that statistic, it's no wonder why many parents can be a bit overprotective. But the one place that's supposed to be the happiest place on earth is Disney, correct? Well, that may not always be the case. There have been cases where children have been abducted from theme parks, including our beloved Disney. Here is a story from the subreddit Let's Not Meet about a story of a kid who almost didn't get away. I was about 6 or 7 when we took a family holiday to Disneyland, Florida. I was a fairly aloof child, and stranger danger was something that had been drilled into us at school. My mom was paranoid about us not going off with strangers, and was convinced that I was a target, being a blue-eyed blonde kid. All I wanted was my freedom to run around. Nope. From day one, I had a Velcro strap put around my wrist, with a boingy cable linking me to my mom, who wore the other end on her wrist. I was effectively on a lead. A week at Disney on a lead was hell for me, and probably for my parents too. Nowadays you'd call it ADD. Back then, it was called naughty. If I was trying to undo the strap, I was barking like a dog, howling like a dog, or rolling around on the floor. I was a joy of a child. The last day there, I had calmed down. Well, I was speaking like a human again rather than a dog. I begged and begged for my parents to let me off the lead until finally they gave in and said yes, I could take the strap off, but I had to hold one of their hands. Fair deal. All went swimmingly to begin with. I stayed close to my parents, held their hands. As time went by, it became clear I wasn't going to run off. I was allowed moments of freedom. No hands, woohoo! There were so many exciting things to see. All my favourite Disney characters waving, my favourite music playing. We began to cross an open area, which I think was generally towards the exit of the park. I was still hands-free. My attention was firmly fixed on Minnie Mouse, who was ahead of me, when my dad grabbed my hand. I stuck to the rules. The deal was I held my parents' hand, so off we went towards the exit to leave. When Dad started running, I began running too. I wasn't sure where we were running, but I was a hyperactive kid, so in my head was, "Yay, running!" Then I heard my mum scream, and I mean scream my name from behind me. I looked over my shoulder to see my mum, brother, and to my surprise, my dad chasing after me. I felt a hand holding mine tighter and looked up at the man I thought was my dad. He was a mid-50s man with grey hair and a grey beard, not my 40-year-old dad with black hair and no beard. Creepy Dude never once looked at me. His face was blank and he looked pretty calm. My little feet brakes came on out of shock and I became a lead weight, which, along with the people who stopped around us due to my mum's screaming, was enough for my sprinting family to catch up with me. The would-be child abductor then clearly decided that he didn't fancy his chances against my dad, dropped my hand and disappeared. My dad chased him and my mum and brother grabbed me. I can't remember much of what happened afterwards. Dad was built for comfort, not speed, so didn't catch the dude. Mum was hysterical. I was gutted because this meant I was never being let off the lead again. I think my parents saw the police out there and they said there were a number of attempted abductions around that time at the Disney park. Disney child abductor, let's not meet again.